Move over San Francisco. Progressive policies have turned the capital of the wealthiest and most powerful nation on earth into a war zone. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. If you've ever visited Washington, D.C., there's a good chance that you've seen unhinged lawlessness prevail. And no, I'm not talking about the Capitol building. I'm talking about ordinary streets and neighborhoods in the district. Washington, D.C. is facing soaring crime rates, despite D.C. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson saying there is no crime crisis back in March. It's insane how pervasive street-level crime is. Not even toilet paper is safe. According to the D.C. Police Department, compared to 2022, violent crime has surged 40%, robbery 70%, homicide 32%, and motor vehicle theft 92%. Motor vehicle theft especially is a problem. There has been at least 6,300 cars stolen in 2023, and a good chunk of that is carjacking, a violent crime that includes stealing a car with people in it by force. If car theft is like burglary, then carjacking is like mugging, but with cars. Carjackers in D.C. smashed records, with more than double the number of 2022 carjackings. And that was in October, which means it's probably worse by now. No one is safe, not even politicians and government agents. Last week, an FBI agent was pushed to the ground and threatened with a gun in a D.C. carjacking. This was just weeks after the Secret Service for U.S. President Joe Biden's granddaughter, Naomi Biden, had their own carjacking encounter, which in turn was just a month after a Democratic representative was carjacked at gunpoint at Navy Yard, a place where lots of representatives live. Interestingly, this was after he joined Republicans in blocking a major overhaul of the district's criminal sentencing laws, which would have lowered maximum penalties for certain crimes, including carjackings. I bet he felt good about that vote in hindsight. Crime has gotten so bad that D.C. recently handed out a set of free dash cams and air tags for rideshare and delivery drivers. Then they distributed a second round for regular old residents. Keep in mind that this doesn't really prevent car theft so much as help people find their cars and possibly the perpetrators after the fact, which I'm sure makes people feel loads better. D.C. police also recommended putting trackers in winter jackets and driving in the center lane to make it harder for potential carjackers to approach the car. That's going to do wonders for traffic. Adding to D.C.'s woes is a surge in violent crime. D.C. hit a grim milestone last week of the highest murder rate in 2 decades, with 250 murders so far this year. People are so scared that families have opted to avoid extracurricular sports, and companies like Monumental Sports and Entertainment are investing more in security. So, where is all this crime coming from? Oh, I'll tell you all about it after the break. Welcome back. Crime rates are going up all over Washington, D.C., and it's being driven by juveniles, some as young as 12 years old. 2/3 of carjacking arrests in D.C. have involved minors, and a vast majority also involve guns, which is strange because D.C. gun laws should prevent that, unless criminals just ignore gun laws. Young people using guns to commit crimes is becoming a very common sight these days, like this 17-year-old shooting at a gas station. According to one D.C.-based anti-violence activist, we have Grand Theft Auto in real life. Children think it's a game, and now they're dying, and other people are dying, and people are traumatized. Rockstar Studios better take notes for Grand Theft Auto 7. It especially doesn't help that many of these kids are repeat offenders.
Lieutenant Scott Dowling is in charge of the D.C. carjacking task force. Are you seeing the same people committing these carjackings, or is it a bunch of different people?
We recognize names. It's certainly a lot of repeat offenders.
Sometimes really repeat offenders. One teen was charged for 6 carjackings and a robbery in just 2 months. So why so many repeat offenders?
Why are they able to continually repeat this offense?
For juveniles specifically, it depends on what their record is as whether they're going to get detained or not. And if it's their first or second offense, typically they won't be detained and they're out there. If they choose to do it again, then that's what they do.
That's not all. According to the Free Beacon, juvenile offenders in D.C., regardless of the severity of their crimes, cannot be held in jail beyond their 21st birthday. As a result, even juvenile murderers in D.C. have avoided significant jail time. If you know you're going to get out of prison when you turn 21 no matter what crime you've committed or how many, why not go crazy, right? There's always time to turn over a new leaf later. Republicans blame the situation on progressive policies D.C. enacted in the wake of George Floyd's death, which resulted in things like limiting support for police and more lax policies for those suspected of crimes. And it seems that even some Democrat leaders agree, including D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser herself. Bowser has gone from championing progressive policies in the wake of George Floyd's death to rolling them back. She's now pushing for harsher penalties, more detainment, and more power to the police, the complete opposite of what she and other progressives wanted. In July of this year, D.C. passed an emergency legislation making it easier to detain criminal suspects pre-trial. D.C. also arranged it so that the U.S. attorney for the district, who normally prosecutes adults, is charging more 16 and 17-year-olds as adults with violent crimes. This is a very different tone from 2021, when a D.C. council bill proposed to limit prosecutions of juveniles in adult court. D.C. has even enacted a juvenile curfew during certain hours in the evening. More recently, Bowser announced the very conveniently named Addressing Crime Trends Now, or Act Now Act. The greatest crime are these acronym bills. It gives police the power to declare drug-free zones, which is a form of anti-loitering law. It also allows police to review body camera footage before writing initial reports, creates criminal penalties for organized retail theft, and punishes mask wearing while committing a crime. Don't worry, they specify that medical masks are not covered under the law. There are also provisions that would allow police to engage in limited vehicular pursuits after the D.C. Council prohibited virtually all motor vehicle pursuits by police in 2021. The legislation also would lessen the restrictions on chokeholds, while still banning any contact with the throat. Officers would be allowed to make contact with a person's neck. What exactly does that look like in practice? It's hard to say. No one seems willing to demonstrate on camera. According to Bowser, we have to reverse the policy environment in the city that, quite frankly, went haywire in the last 3 years. Gee, who could have foretold that a knee-jerk policy reaction based on public sentiment wouldn't go all that well in the long run? Bowser says the progressive policies made after George Floyd's death don't match the daily practice of safe and effective policing. She says, I think they were well-intentioned, but I think some of the reforms have made our communities less safe. It's hard to say how much further D.C. will go to crack down on crime, but Bowser's proposals have many critics. D.C. Council Chairman Phil Mendelson, the one who said there was no crime crisis, for example, argues that her policies do very little to address the crime crisis, especially when it comes to homicides, carjackings, and robberies. There's also some concern about police abusing powers if they get to review body camera footage before writing initial reports or impose drug-free zones. ACLU's D.C. chapter went so far as to accuse Bowser of being more focused on protecting police officers when they break the law than on improving public safety. But it's pretty clear that D.C. needs to do something to signal that bad actions really do have consequences. Aside from encouraging juveniles and their families to exercise responsibility in community, one of the first steps D.C. should take is by making it clear that it's intent on preventing crimes, not just reacting to them. Juveniles in D.C. may be stealing cars, but one thing they can't steal is a home. Unfortunately for many millennials, owning your own home is a fantasy, even outside of D.C. Of course, YouTube might consider talking about that sensitive, so I've hidden that topic in the latest episode of my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming, where I hide controversial topics in gaming content. This week's episode is about Animal Crossing and why you will never be a homeowner. Check it out. And while you're at it, smash that orange button to support America Uncovered on Patreon. Don't worry, you won't be charged for carjacking if you do. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.